Mr. Speaker, officers, trustees, delegates, and physician colleagues, gratitude. I have made it a habit to practice gratitude as I have traveled on both my personal and professional journeys, through twists and turns, successes and setbacks, joy and pain. So let me start there. It has been my honor and a privilege to have served as president of the American Medical Association, and I am grateful for the support of my many families. So first, a thanks to you, my AMA family. A great thanks to my psychiatry family, my Georgia and Atlanta families, my West Virginia family, to the sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and my personal family, who have been steadfast in their support for me these many years. I also want to take a moment to recognize the service of our board chair, Dr. Jesse Ehrenfeld. It has been a pleasure to serve with him this past year. A note of recognition and thanks to our departing trustees, Dr. William Kobler, Dr. William McDade, Ms. Sarah Mae Smith, and Mr. Kevin Williams. And what a wonderful opportunity to have served with Doctors Barbara McEnany and Sue Bailey, a terrific trio, or as I have come to call us, we three. Barbara, thank you for your many years of unparalleled advocacy for physicians. Sue, thank you for all your years at the helm of the House of Delegates, and I wish you all the best as you become the 175th president of our beloved AMA. And I can't let this moment go by without a note of gratitude for figures both seen and hidden who have advanced progress in science and medicine. Historical figures, Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpley, Katherine Johnson, and modern-day trailblazers, Dr. Nancy Dickey and Dr. Lonnie Bristow. And Henrietta Lacks, who until recently was invisible, yet ubiquitous, and whose contribution to medicine and science is immeasurable. Now, one of the many privileges afforded the president of our AMA is to travel the world, or, to quote the illustrious Dr. Seuss, to go off to great places. And so along the way, and in those great places, I have met and been inspired by physicians and trainees whose work brings our AMA mission to life. A family physician in Alaska practicing in a remote part of the state. A young physician from Pennsylvania who is working to ensure equitable treatment for those who have a substance use disorder. An African-American medical student in Illinois, the first in her family to even go to college, juggling supporting family back home while studying for exams. I have also met non-physicians who have shown me just how much our mission matters. A taxi driver, an Iraq War veteran, who told me he had great respect for physicians and that he knew that our journey was one of hard work and long years, and he just wanted to say thanks. A teacher in Metro Atlanta who shared a story of a first grader in her class who wanted to grow up to be a doctor because she was inspired by my story. And a sorority sister whose mother told her, right now during this pandemic, I'm not going out until Patrice and the AMA says it's okay to go out. And finally, a destination I could never have imagined. My journey has taken me to this wonderful place, the pinnacle of leadership, in organized medicine. I am often asked, what makes a great leader? Great leaders are not those interested in the title or the corner office. We know who they are, but that's not who we are. Great leaders are about the work. Great leaders dream. They dare to inspire. They dare to challenge. Great leaders dare to have difficult conversation and dare to take risks. That is an apt description for what we do at the AMA. And those qualities have been particularly important at this moment, at this time. 3 months ago, all of our lives, and indeed our way of life, changed dramatically. In the United States, more than 1.7 million people have become infected with COVID-19, and more than 100,000 have died. And I want us to pause on that for a moment, because those are people with families and loved ones who are grieving their loss, and they deserve a moment of pause. Our country, indeed our world, is being challenged as never before. Challenged by a novel virus, which there is not yet a specific treatment or vaccine. Physicians are challenged by a lack of resources and PPE. Challenged by a political climate that is highly polarized. We are all challenged by the rampant spread of misinformation and disinformation. In November, I gave a speech about physicians matching the moment and continuing to earn public confidence in an era of mistrust. I spoke about how patients still trust us, their physicians, even though they've lost trust in other institutions and other professions. I spoke about competency, truth-telling, compassion, and purpose, the elements of trust, noting that in this era of distrust, the AMA is just what the doctor ordered. Little did any of us realize at the time how dramatically we would be put to the test. But match the moment we have. Physicians are working long hours in offices and hospitals, sleeping in their basements or hotels so they do not infect family members, working overtime to develop vaccines and treatments, countering the endless false narratives circulating across media channels, and reopening our medical practices so we can meet the postponed health needs of our patients. On an organizational level, our AMA has pressured Congress and the administration to accelerate production of PPE, test kits, and ventilators. We have lobbied for regulatory changes to facilitate remote patient visits and fought for financial support for independent and small practices. We have fought for freedom of speech so physicians can raise concerns about the lack of resources without fear of retribution or punishment. We have used our national platform to call on leaders to focus on science and evidence in all decision-making. And it is those acts of competence, truth-telling, compassion, and purpose that will ultimately lead us through this pandemic. Around this time last year, we were in Chicago, and after days of work on policy, we celebrated my inauguration. And this is one of my favorite photos from that celebration. Pictured here are the men of my family, from the youngest, Che, who is an outstanding scholar athlete, to the eldest, my Uncle Ellis Ray Williams, a distinguished educator, principal, and World War II veteran. Our AMA gave them a warm welcome, so much so that at the end of the evening, my cousin exclaimed, "I love the AMA." But unfortunately, as we have seen, outside of the walls of the Hyatt Regency, these same family members are not safe to jog or birdwatch or drive or even breathe. I do have hope, however, but that hope is up to us. It is up to us, America's physicians and the AMA, to demonstrate how to understand more and to fear less. To be the voices our country can trust in this time of trial, and to lead on action to move us forward in this difficult, perilous time. In the words of King T'Challa, more connects us than separates us. And in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers. 174 physicians have had the honor of the presidency of the American Medical Association, a position that gives voice to the concerns and work of our profession. And I am so grateful to be in that number. Today, though my tenure as president will end, my work will continue. I will continue to work to ensure patients are prioritized over politics and profits, and to fight any intrusion in the patient-physician relationship. I will work to ensure that as delivery systems are redefined, that the physician voice is heard loudly and clearly. I will work to ensure that mental health is integrated into overall health, and that there is action to address the physical and psychological consequences of early traumatic experiences and the inequities we see today. I will work to achieve equity and justice within the walls of our exam rooms, within the health delivery ecosystem, within the halls of Congress, and our justice system. My promise to you is that I will be guided by the direction of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his final Sunday sermon, to remain awake through a great revolution. And so, as I speak to you for the last time as president of the American Medical Association, please know that this psychiatrist is in. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Jesse Ehrenfeld, Board Chair of the American Medical Association. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the next president of the American Medical Association, my friend and colleague, Dr. Susan R. Bailey. I want to take a minute here to acknowledge the importance of this moment. While the first female physician joined the AMA in 1876, it wasn't until 1998, 122 years later, when we inaugurated our first female president. Dr. Bailey now becomes the 6th woman to lead the AMA and the 3rd in a row during a critical time when this association has rededicated itself to fighting for gender equity across the profession and the entire nation. Now, a proud Texan, Sue is the embodiment of the Lone Star State, strong, determined, and fiercely independent. She earned her undergraduate and medical degrees from Texas A&M, a place where she later served on the Board of Regents, having been appointed by then Governor George W. Bush. Dr. Bailey makes her home in Fort Worth, Texas, where she has been an allergist in private practice for more than 30 years. She completed her residency in general pediatrics and a fellowship in allergy and immunology at the Mayo Graduate School of Medicine in Rochester, Minnesota. She's also been awarded the title of Distinguished Fellow of the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. She has held many leadership positions within the Texas Medical Association and the AMA, where she's perhaps best known as our previous Speaker of the House of Delegates. As President of the AMA, Sue will continue to be a passionate advocate for women and children, for advancing health equity throughout medicine, and for protecting that special relationship between patient and physician. She has been a leader on both the national and local levels to support independent physicians. All of these experiences have equipped her well to lead the AMA during these unprecedented times. Please join me in welcoming our next president, Dr. Susan R. Bailey. Joining us as Dr. Bailey takes the oath of office is Dr. Bailey's husband, Doug Bailey. Dr. Bailey, as I read the oath of office, please place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I solemnly swear
I solemnly swear
that I shall carry out the duties
that I shall carry out the duties
of the office of President of the American Medical Association
of the office of President of the American Medical Association
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I shall strive constantly
I shall strive constantly
to maintain the ethics of the medical profession
to maintain the ethics of the medical profession
and to promote the art and science of medicine
and to promote the art and science of medicine
and the betterment of public health.
and the betterment of public health.
I shall dedicate myself and my office
I shall dedicate myself and my office
to improving the health of the American people
to improving the health of the American people
and to bringing high-quality medical care to all persons.
and to bringing high-quality medical care to all persons.
I shall work to preserve and protect
I shall work to preserve and protect
the primacy of the patient-physician relationship
the primacy of the patient-physician relationship
and the freedom of physicians
and the freedom of physicians
to practice medicine without undue impediment.
to practice medicine without undue impediment.
I shall uphold the Constitution and bylaws
I shall uphold the Constitution and bylaws
of the American Medical Association at all times.
of the American Medical Association at all times.
To these duties and obligations,
To these duties and obligations,
I pledge myself, so help me God.
I pledge myself, so help me God.
Dr. Bailey, it is now my privilege to present you, mailed in advance of course, the American Medical Association's President's Medal in recognition of your service to your nation and your profession.
Good afternoon, and thank you for that warm introduction. And special thanks to our speakers, Dr. Bruce Scott and Dr. Lisa Egbert, for their incredible efforts in making today's special meeting possible. The inauguration of a new AMA president is typically a very formal black tie affair with great celebration and fanfare. In my case, my family and close friends were all excited and ready to fly to Chicago to celebrate with me. I had a beautiful gown and Broadway entertainment and red velvet cake for dessert all picked out. My grandson was going to look so adorable in his tux, just like his daddy and his uncle did at his age when I became president of the Tarrant County Medical Society. I was planning one final bow with my predecessors, Drs. Patrice Harris and Barbara McEnany, capping our historic year with 3 consecutive women presidents. But the coronavirus had other plans, and seemingly overnight our world changed. So here I stand in a nearly empty studio, talking to you through a video screen. That's okay. As physicians, we understand better than anyone how a health emergency can disrupt even the most carefully thought out plans. No matter the circumstance, I'm grateful to address you for the first time as AMA president, and I am so honored to carry the mantle of leadership for this organization I've been proud to serve for 40 years. On this journey to become AMA president, I've been asked who my heroes were growing up. We hear about heroes every day now, it seems. But what is a hero? Who were my heroes? I was never particularly into make-believe superheroes as a kid. It was real people in my life whom I most admired and emulated. The people who inspired me and pushed me to a life beyond anything I could have imagined for myself. My heroes were my physicians. They were my first heroes, and they're still my heroes. I had significant allergies and asthma as a little girl, and my allergists were a guiding light in our family. In fact, the McGovern Allergy Clinic in my hometown practically raised me, instilling in me a passion for medicine and teaching me the basics about working in a medical office, how to take a patient's history, perform allergy testing, and how to give a damn good shot. I grew up in the shadow of the Texas Medical Center in Houston, and many of my friends' dads were physicians. At that time, in the 1960s, it was always the dads. Thankfully now, it's moms too. Now, although I rarely saw those physicians, I idolized them. After my father had double cardiac bypass surgery in the early 70s, one thing that sped his recovery was taking daily walks by the home of his surgeon, Dr. Jimmy Howell, in the hope that one day the doctor would see him and be proud of him. One day he did see my dad, and he was indeed proud of him, and that kept Daddy walking the rest of his life. Oh, how Daddy and our hero, Dr. Howell, would be proud today. What we've witnessed in this pandemic and what we know from history is that heroes are defined by their ability to adapt to a changing world, to follow a righteous cause, to overcome immense challenges, and to be changed by it forever. The author, Joseph Campbell, discusses this in his book, Hero with a Thousand Faces, which describes the mythological hero's journey in 12 stages, establishing the classic storyline in everything from the original Star Wars trilogy to Harry Potter to The Wizard of Oz. As Campbell describes it, a hero starts off in the ordinary, familiar world, but gets a call to adventure. Think of a humble farm boy on Tatooine getting the call from Obi-Wan Kenobi to help save Princess Leia. At first, our hero is reluctant, even fearful, but a supernatural force or mentor comes along and brings out the most in them. A threshold is crossed, and the adventure begins. Dorothy skips down the yellow brick road. On our way, our hero encounters challenges, finds allies, and makes enemies. Eventually, he or she arrives at the ultimate test. Harry Potter confronts Voldemort face to face. This is a dangerous place, a dark place, a place where survival is as important as the ultimate goal. There's a fight to the death. Somehow, some way, the hero prevails. But the story is far from over. Going back to ordinary life is not easy, and there are many bumps in the road. But in the end, our hero emerges transformed. Luke is a Jedi Master. Dorothy returns to Kansas. Harry lives out his life as a benevolent wizard. That's the hero's journey, and it's been told 1,000,000 times in 1,000,000 different ways. A hero's journey is our journey, a physician's journey. You start off as a young student, maybe already in another career, but at some point you hear the call of medical school. Somebody gives you a hand, maybe a teacher or a coworker, and miraculously you've arrived as a first-year medical student. You feel like an imposter at first, and you wonder if you've made the biggest mistake of your life. Through wit and resourcefulness, you figure out how to be successful. You don the white coat and you make lifelong friends, all the while confronting clinical challenges that you fear might break you. At some point, you confront the ultimate test. Maybe it's having a relationship suffer because your priorities have changed. Maybe it's not matching into the specialty or the program you thought you wanted. Maybe it's losing your first patient. You're in a dark place and it seems there's no way out. But you keep going. You find your way out of the darkness and you emerge a better physician and a stronger person for having endured these trials. You realize that you are making a difference in people's lives. You're saving lives. You're not the same person you were before you went to medical school. You are a physician, and you're following the hero's journey. But here's the thing, even heroes need allies on their sides. Luke needed R2-D2, Harry Potter needed Hermione and Ron, Dorothy needed her ragtag crew. There isn't a single person I know who walks this journey alone. My own allies are far too many to mention and thank in my limited time, but they include my husband, Doug, who's been my greatest supporter and partner on this journey. They include my sons, Michael and Stephen Wynn, and Michael's partner, Hannah Gould, my precious grandson, Jackson, my sister, Sally Rudd Ross, and her beautiful family. They include my wonderful partners, Doctors Robert Rogers and Drew Beatty, my medical assistant, Joyce Hayes, and all of their families, and all my lifelong friends from Texas A&M University and the Disciples of Christ Church. And of course, it includes my family in organized medicine, the Tarrant County Medical Society, where I got my start, the Texas Medical Association, and my allergy and pediatric specialty societies, the ACAAI, the Quad AI, and the AAP. Special thanks to Dr. Melissa Gerritsen for your friendship, hard work, and dedication to help me make this journey possible. It also includes my family at the AMA and all of those colleagues, confidants, and executives along the way who have mentored me and become dear friends. I haven't named you all by name, but please know that you're forever in my heart. And like any hero's journey, ours in medicine is simple. Let doctors be doctors. After more than 30 years in a small private practice, I'm a passionate defender of the independent physician. And, like the AMA, I'm determined to remove all those obstacles that have come between us and our patients. Insurer and government mandates, decreasing payments and increasing demands, burnout and physician suicide. And the coronavirus pandemic has made all of these problems more acute. We need the power of the AMA on this journey. I believe involvement in organized medicine is a professional obligation. Taking good care of our patients requires much more from us than just the time we spend with them in an exam room. It requires advocacy at the highest levels to fight against the quagmire of regulation and for the support we need to sustain private practice during a pandemic that is threatening its very survival. It requires us to confront insurance companies and all their familiar tricks that seem to raise insurance premiums year after year without spending a dime more on patient care. At times, I fear our nation's dysfunctional health system is held together only by the oath that we take when we graduate medical school, the pledge to always put the needs and interests of our patients first. Whether you took the Hippocratic Oath or, as in my case, recited the prayer of Maimonides, these words demonstrate our loyalty to public service, to the pursuit of science and knowledge. These words bring purpose and meaning to our work, elevating it from a vocation to a profession. We are now on a new quest that none of us expected, living and working in a world that may be changed forever, in a wounded, divided nation that needs our leadership. But we need not fear the dark times on our journey. We need only to lean on one another, to take care of each other, and to keep our eyes fixed on the horizon. We will get through this pandemic. We will continue to fight for our patients and for the practice of medicine. This is our journey, and we will walk it together. Thank you.